So now I just need to file in this rear trivet hole. Trivet? Why did I keep saying trivet? Just so you know, I've said it like 10 times. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nobody and we are in the Untrained Unprofessional garage today, working on my very first AK47 build, which is a Hungarian AK63D. Now, I wanted to see if a first-timer could do a professional style job riveting their receiver with jigs that you can just buy off the internet. So what I'm going to be using for the trigger guard, this AK Builder trigger jig, and for everything else, the AK Builder riveting jig. Now this will do your front trunnion rivets, your rear trunnion rivets, including the long one, and your center support rivet if you need to do it. Seems like a pretty nice do-it-all jig. Now in order to do this, of course, you do have to have a press, and AK Builder recommends the 20-ton press that you can get from Harbor Freight. But I have seen people on the internet use the 12-ton. Spend the extra money, get the 20-ton. I think you'll be a little happier with it. To bring you up to speed from the last video, you may recall that this trigger guard did not have the mag release installed. It was actually out so that way I could parkerize all the parts, and I did not want to sandblast and parkerize the spring that's in there. So I knocked the pin most of the way out to where it was still holding on, and then in order for me to be able to use this AK Builder trigger guard jig, I had to get this pin installed or take the pin all the way out so that way it could fit into that slot. So I decided to go ahead and install it. Now I couldn't just hold this mag release in and just tap it because it was under too much force and things were getting out of alignment pretty quickly. So I needed something to capture that spring and take a little bit of the difficulty level down a bit for me. So I took an old drill bit that fit reasonably well and I turned it into a slave pin. And now I have a nice fitting slave pin for the next builds. Now some of the things that we're going to be working with, these are little soft stabilizing blocks that you can put the receiver on just to kind of keep it level, but also keeps it from getting damaged. This is going to support your rivet head. So this will go underneath this little ram here. And then this flat portion is going to get screwed in to the arm and all the way down. And that's what's going to be compressing your tail. And I don't know how far to go, so I'm just going to go barely past the bottom. I can always adjust here in just a minute. Now, part of the instructions do talk about keeping this arm, which is controlled by this set screw right here, as close to the press point as possible. Obviously, when you're doing the second rivet in on the front trunnion and also the bottom rivet on the rear trunnion, you're going to have to go out as far as you need to, but don't exaggerate it more than you have to. I'm going to go ahead and drop rivets on both sides to go ahead and keep it lined up. I'm actually going to do a second one on the top. So I think I got it. I kind of had to play with the height of that screw for squishing the tail. I actually backed it out a little bit so it's higher. I also took out that one just because the height of the screw was interfering. So I might have to back it out just a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and start compressing it here and check just to make sure that my rivet head should be flush, and it looks like it's squashing just fine. All right, let's back this out and see if that tail is going to clear the barrel. So the head looks good. I think that rivet is looking good. Let's go ahead and do the second rear here. I'm going to have to adjust it here in a minute, or I'm going to hit the trunnion. Scoot the tool head over. Okay, I think that should clear. All right, let's pull that out and take a look. So one of the things that I am wondering about is, can someone who has no clue what they're doing get professional results? And that is nicely squished. And I think that is nicely squished. Fantastic. And you really can't tell at all that having to re-drill where the existing holes were, everything was slightly off center. You can't even tell. I think what I'm going to do is do the other side, lock these in, and then dimple both of my rears. So here's the other side, the middle rivet. I've been trying to play around with getting this to where you guys can see it. And I'm pushing down on the receiver to force that rivet head up against the receiver so that way the neck doesn't swell and the head is not flush with the receiver. So I'm just keeping a little bit of force as I'm compressing. Yeah, I got a little bit too excited on that one. The rivet heads look good. No damage to the receiver at all, no damage to the heads. So I was figuring out the dimpling tool, and I dimpled this side, and probably went a little bit more than what I had to, but now I know. I put a little bit of grease on the dimpling tool just because I wanted it to slide in smoothly and come out fairly easily. And so now, which that thing fits in kind of toit like a toiga, I'm going to kind of get it over the hole. All right, let's see how that did. It started to. All right. I think that might have done it. What I did was I kind of moved the little tool arm around so that way it pushes on different sides. So let's go ahead and back this out and see. It felt like it did something. Yes, there we go. So cleaned out with a 4mm drill bit. Now it drops in both sides just fine. Makes me a happy camper. I've now swapped out to the rivet head holder, and I'm using my little swell neck rivet because that's what goes right here on the back. All right, I think we're in a happy place there. And I'm going to try to stay out of frame here. Keeping pressure on my receiver to keep the head of the rivet flush against it. So, there is the rivet. Looks like it is smashed sufficiently. Does not look like it will interfere with anything. I'm a happy camper about that. I would say that for the DIY guy who wants to do an AK at home, this AK Builder rivet tool really does a good job. And it looks like it does a professional job, or even better if you take your time with it. And apparently, I did not tighten my jack. It's like, why isn't this squishing? I don't know. Do your job properly. There we go. Okay, now we got squish. So there are our front rivets, which are nice and flush on both sides. There's our tail of the one that we just did. And there is the other one. And it looks like it should clear the magazine just fine. Honestly, that tool made this very, very easy. If you're looking for a rivet tool for the AK, this AK Builder tool is really nice. If you already have a press or you want to get a 20-ton press, I mean, Harbor Freight, always has them. And, this just makes it nice and controllable. I'm sure the Toth tool is nice and easy to do as well. But considering my first time messing with this, I kind of wanted to control the process and see what had to happen. And this allowed me to do it. I mean, other than the dimpling, I think the dimpling was the hardest part because I just wasn't sure how far to go. I'm now going to do the rear trunnion. I'm going to do these front ones first on both sides, which all these need to be dimpled. I think the best way to do it is to kind of watch underneath it and watch the receiver come down, but also kind of move the receiver so that way it's pressing on different points to get it to fully seat, because it wants to kind of do this a little bit. But now that I know that, it should be a lot easier. But I'll get these dimpled and pressed in on both sides and make sure that the rear of the trunnion is flush with the receiver. And then I will know my final hole location on this guy, because I only drilled this out with a 4mm and it requires a 4.5, and I don't have a 4.5mm. So I'm going to hand file that in before I dimple and press the rivet. And also the other thing is I saw a video a while ago, and I think it was Jin's Boy, or was it Mel 64? I can't remember. It was one of them. I'll try to find the link. And he was talking about the length of this long rivet, how they're like 20 thousandths oversized. And I did put calipers on mine, and it's a little long, but also the tail side slightly does this. So I need to flatten that and then see where I'm starting from before I start removing rivet head. And then figure out how to use the tool for that long one. Something that I just noticed is that with that dimple tool, so it's going to compress this whole thing. So I'm wondering if taking these little rubber blocks out might be the way to go. That way it starts flush to the plate here, if that makes sense. We'll find out very shortly if I made a good decision or not. All right, let's move this a little bit. All right, so that's nice and dimpled. Let me see if I can fit this in. Nope, clearance it just a little bit. Had a small amount that was just in the way, but now it's good. This first rivet, let's go ahead and get it on the rivet head holder. And of course, this guy is going to be in the way. Get my stabilizing block in. Stabilizing block in. Hope you guys can kind of see that, baby. Ow. Get down my receiver. Smush, 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 smush. Hold these two. All right, there's my first guy. Looks pretty good. Nice fat tail there, but hopefully not too fat. I think it's good. Hopefully you can see that there. So I have those 4 rivets done. One of the things that I just noticed and learned by doing this was making sure that you dimple in far enough, and also make sure that your rivet sits completely flush, because this one right here, actually, even though it was sitting against the dimple, wasn't seating completely flush. So even after I pressed that in, it was sitting a little high. And it's not like by huge amounts. You know, I noticed that the backlight, you know, from my open door, I could see slightly underneath it. And as you know, light reveals a lot of things. So luckily, I was able to put it back into the press and just squish it down a little bit more, and it fully seated. So, but just test fit your rivets and make sure that it looks like they're going to seat fully before you do it. I got lucky. Now I just need to file in this rear rivet hole to the 4.5 millimeter, and then I can press that one in as well. But I need to change the configuration also of this tool, which is fairly simple. So on the trunnion, both sides are dimpled, but only one side of the rivet is actually dimpled. So I'm just going to do both sides anyway, because I'm just working with it. So I have my dimple tool here on the bottom, and then I have this dimple tool that's going to come down through the sleeve and exert pressure to dimple right there. And as you can see, I took this articulating arm out here, put these are sleeves actually, and these bolts will go all the way through, and then this threaded guide, and this fits really nice and tight in here. That's the setup. Okay, so I got that guy right there. This little block kind of comes underneath, and I am going to move my ram. Okay. Tighten it down just a little bit, but I still have movement. It feels centered. All right. At least I think this is how it goes. All right. Let's go ahead and back it out. And check my work. Yep, that's a dimple. And that's a dimple. Okay, hot damn. All right, so I just spent about the last hour and a half trying to find the video talking about taking the 20,000s off, and I can't find it for the life of me. So I don't want to stop. And I think what he said was it was 1 and 735 thousandths was the length of the rivet, which is pretty darn close to mine. And he took 20 thousandths off, so 1 in 715 thousand. So I took 20 thou off on the belt sander, and I'm just going to try it and see how it goes. Now, also, I did find that talking about squeezing rivets and when you're forming a head or a new head, that you want to have 1.5 times the diameter of the rivet. And I couldn't figure out if I'm taking 1.5 times the 4.5 millimeters or the fact that my rivet is 4.3 millimeters, and that kind of throws off the measurements and everything. So I'm just going to simplify it and do it. So I have my rivet head support that I'm going to go ahead and place underneath it, and then I'm going to be forming my new rivet head with another tool that's going to be pressed down. So let's go ahead and feed that through. And I think I'm going to have to back that out there. And where's all my crap? Here's my crap. So this is going to come like that. And then I need, okay, this is to center it. Supposed to get that somewhat tightened down. Okay, so that should be putting some pressure on there. Okay. Now this is my rivet forming head, which I am going to lube up with just a little bit. And I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to put a little bit in the cup. But not a lot. I kind of got a little happy there. Alrighty. I'm nervous again. Now I'm worried about going too far if I do have too much material and have it squeeze out the sides, which let's see. Looks like I can keep going. All right, might be a little bit hard to see here, but yeah, my rivet was too long. So that is good to know for the next time I play with this. Also, I had a little bit of squish out here where the rivet started forming and started smushing out from the cup. But for a first go around, I think that's okay. But just okay. So obviously taking the 20 thousandths off was not the correct answer, at least in my particular situation. I could have screwed up in another way, who knows, but I have extra material. So what I should have done was taken the 4.3 millimeter diameter of the rivet, multiplied it by 1.5 to get 6.45 millimeters, and then take my total protrusion of the rivet from the receiver, which was 7.14. Your numbers may be slightly different, and taken off 0.69 millimeters, which, yeah, is only like 27,000, so an extra 7 thousandths above what I did. But that could have made the difference for me. Just an FYI. I mean, that's what I'm going to do next time. We're on to the trigger guard installation, and for those rivets, I'm going to be using the AK Builder trigger guard riveting jig. And again, another first. One of the things that I did figure out is that this little piece of metal that goes into the receiver, and that's what you're pressing down on to squish the rivets, did not work with my receiver. The bolt rails that get welded onto the inside of the receiver comes down, and where one of the trigger pins comes through, it actually bulges out into the center of the receiver. So I had to do a little bit of clearance cutting to get this to fit, and hopefully it does not become an issue. I have the trigger guard in position with the rivets holding it in. This actually has quite a bit of pressure as it's stretching over this the underfolder and reinforcement tab, and I also have the safety stop located in place. These 4 pins or rivets are going to line up here into these recesses, and looks like I need to clean them out. And then also this guy right here will support, and it's actually held in place with a magnet, and that's the rear rivet pin. The rear rivet pin, I'm actually using the longer one. There's a short and a long. You use the long one from what I understand with the underfolder reinforcement plate. So I have that located in position. And then this is actually what presses down onto that piece of metal to squish the rivets, and this is notched out for your center support rivet. And if I think I understand that correctly, I should be good to go. I come in like this. I come in like that. Okay. And then like that. Okay, you slide it into position. All right, so I had to make one other modification to it, was remove just a little bit off of this opposite side. And that is because of these guys right here, these little dimples that reinforce around the trigger pins. And yeah, now it drops into place. So we have the block with the center support cut out in place, and the fattest part is on this side of our center support, and the thin part is right here. And now should just be able to smush. Smush is a technical term. All right, I'm going to check it and see, because I can always go farther. And we have smushed rivets. Hey, hey. Now I have this rear one that I got to do, so I'm just going to reverse this and then set it. All right, so I went and looked at the instructions, which I've been trying really hard not to do. I just want to figure some of this stuff out. But you turn the block upside down, set it on your rivet, and I guess I need to get this closer down. All right, and switch. And we got one smushed rivet. Well, there we are. We have a fully riveted receiver, and we're ready to move on to pressing in the barrel and populating it and everything. But I am going to do one other thing before that, and that is because I have a non-matching bolt and trunnion. So I think I'm going to lap it in, make sure that I have really good contact on that bolt and trunnion if the part ever shows up. It's been on order for like a month. Yeah. Oh well. Well, guys, appreciate you watching. I hope you learned that if you're looking at doing one of these and you've never done it before, that it is not as hard as it looks. You just have to start and see where it goes. And it goes pretty good. Thanks for watching, guys.